Okay, third grade, this is Math for Friday, and you are going to need a correcting pen, your math workbook, your math notebook, and your brains. Okay, so let's start with correcting our math workbook, page 85. If you need any of those things, pause it and run and go get them. So today on this Google form, we're going to correct our math workbook page and go through some things. And then what I did was I attached the worksheet you're going to work on here in this form, so you have it all in one place. But it's very tricky to use fractions on the Google form, so you will have to write the answers in your notebooks. That's why you have your notebook, okay? All right, so looking at page 85, there's just a couple of things I want to point out before we get going, okay? So I have here, this is the number line on number 1 on page 85 that you were supposed to fill in. So take a look here and you can check your work and see if you filled it in correctly. On my number line, I have the whole numbers in red and the fractions in blue so that you can see the difference, okay? All right, so a couple things I want to point out is two things really. Always remember that a number line and reading the value of something on the number line, how big is it? It's just like reading. You always start from the left and go to the right. The further right we are on the number line, the larger the value, right? Makes sense. Look, a number line goes up. 1, 2, 3, and everything in between as well. So if we say, what fraction is larger than 1/2, all we have to do is go to the right, and right there on the number line is 3/4. So 3/4 is larger than 1/2. That's the answer to number 2. Okay, so I wanted to point that out. If you can remember that 0 is the jumping off point, and the further right a number is on the number line, the larger it is, the greater it is, okay? The other thing I want to point out is, I wonder if any of you have been curious, why, if we're used to breaking up these number segments into equal parts, why isn't the number line labeled 1/4, 2/4, 3/4? Why is it labeled 1/4, 1/2, 3/4? And you see that again here, and you see that again here, and all the way up the number line. Well, remember that this is just another way of writing this fraction, that they're equivalent. So if you had 2/4 here, it wouldn't be incorrect. The reason that we put a 1/2 here is that benchmark fraction idea, where people can really visualize 1/2 very easily, and then we can judge where to put our other segments. So let's say you look at this here, and you say, okay, let me divide this in half the best I can. Then you can go from there and divide it into fourths, or whatever you need to do. So it's a benchmark fraction. That's why we always put it in there. It helps us. That means that 2/4 and 1/2 are equivalent fractions. They're the same fraction, not the same fraction. They're representing the same region. They're different fractions, okay? I just wanted to point that out if you were wondering, why do they put the 1/2 in there? Why do we jump from 1/2 and fourths, whatever? It's to help us visualize on the number line, okay? All right, so if you need to check your answers here to see how you filled in your number line correctly, go ahead. But we were filling in the first 3 squares, it goes 3/4, the whole number 1, and then 1 and 1/4. And then we jump up the number line to the whole number 2. You should have 2/4. Sorry, 2 and 1/4. Then we hop over the 2 and 1/2, and we get to 2 and 3/4. Okay? All right, that's what I wanted to go over with you on that. Now let's go through the rest of the worksheet. So number 3, just like we were saying just now, if we look at the whole numbers, they're equal, 1 and 1. If we look at the fraction, we just discussed that 1/2 and 2/4 are equivalent. So you should have said number 3 were equal. Okay? On number 4, we have 1 and 3/4 comparing to 2 and 1/4. Okay, well, go up to the number line. We already know that that whole number, 2, is larger than 1, so that's a tip-off, right? But if you look at the number line, and we're looking from left to right, from 0 up, then we can see clearly that 2/4 is larger. So on this one you would say 1 3/4 is less than 2 1/4. Okay? And number 5, how do we order them from least to greatest? Well, look at your number line. You should have had 1 1/4, 1 3/4, and then 2 1/2. Okay? Great. So on 6 and 7, we're looking at this number line starting at 0 and ending at 3, and we have a dot representing A and we have a dot representing B. Number 6, Lauren is running a 3-mile race. He stops at water stop A. How far did Lauren run? Okay, how did you work this out? Well, we know we're talking about water stop A, so let's look at that on the number line. My first step would be, how many segments is this number line divided up into equal parts from 0 to 1, let's say. That's the first break in the number line, 0 to 1. And that is 1, 2, 3, 4 equal parts. So we know the total number of equal parts is the denominator, so we should have put 4 in the denominator down. How many in the numerator? Let's jump off from 0 to the A dot. 1, 2, 3. 3/4. And technically they're asking for miles. How many miles? So you would write 3/4 miles, or 3/4 miles. You could write the fraction. Okay? All right, so on number 7, how far is water stop B from the end of the race? Okay, I'm going to go back to the number line. I'm going to look for the B. All right, here's the B. All right, so this is a mixed number because we're past the 1 on the number line, so we have a whole number and a fraction to deal with. We know our whole number is 1. What's our fraction? So again, looks like this segment is divided up into 4 equal parts. So if we hop from the 1 to the B, we get 1/4, 1/2. So we could write our mixed number as 1 1/2. And to complete our answer, how far, they're asking for miles, so I would write 1 1/2 miles. So it should look like this. The mixed number 1 1/2 miles. Okay? Great. Okay, on number 8, explain it. How can you compare two fractions by using a number line? Well, we have been talking about this whole video, so how do we do that? What did you write? Hopefully you wrote something to do with the fact that a number line starts at 0 and goes from left to right. So you could write something like, the fraction to the right is the greater fraction. Anything like that would be fine. That the fraction goes up in value from 0 would be fine, okay? As long as you understand, it's just like reading. When we start reading a paragraph, we start at the left and we go from there. On a number line, we start at 0 on the left and we go up from there in value. Number 9, geometry. What fraction of the angle in this parallelogram are acute angles? Okay? Acute angles. So did you get B, 1/2? There are 4 angles, and 2 of them, 2 of 4, are acute angles, so that would be 1/2. Okay? All right, so hopefully you did okay on that. There is more practice on this in your worksheet below. Get out your math notebook to a clean page and just transfer the work that you're doing from this worksheet in front of you to your notebook. If you could please write in your notebook, why don't we go ahead and write page 73 so that I know what it is that you're doing and I can keep track. And then you will be able to just, it would probably be a good idea if you transfer the number line to your page so you can see it right there if you're not able to keep your computer up. If you can keep your computer up, you can look at it like that. Just depends on your situation. All right, so good luck with this and happy Friday, and I will see you guys soon.